Hello, everyone, and welcome to an all new episode of My Way Conversations with Entrepreneurs Doing Business Outside the Box. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and today we have an extraordinary guest whose audacious spirit knows no bounds. Get ready to be inspired as we delve into the captivating world of this adventurous entrepreneur gearing up to walk the world's longest walkable road. I'm going to be honest with you, it makes me tired just thinking about it. So, from his entrepreneurship to embracing the unknown, he embodies the true essence of living life on his terms. So, buckle up and join us on this episode as we celebrate resilience, dreams, and the relentless pursuit of pushing human potential and meet Travis Robbins. Happy Tuesday, Travis. I'm so excited to have you here with us this evening on My Way.
Hey, Jessica. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
I've already asked you 8,000 questions between when we met the first time and then before the show, but I'm excited for everybody else to hear the answers to these things as well, because this is an interesting journey you're on.
Yeah, it's quite a new thing for me as well.
Yeah, well, I would think I would ask if you've done this before.
Nobody has, actually.
No one has. And so we're going to get into a little bit of why you're doing this, what exactly this is, where it goes, and some of the more detailed questions. I do want to say hello to Miss Brittany, who's joining us out in the audience this evening. Hello, Miss Brittany. It's good to see you. And I would love for all of you watching wherever you are in the world, whether you're live or on the replay, to comment below. Let us know any questions that you have for Travis, and we'll be happy to get to those throughout the show if we are able. Let everybody know, Travis, where you're joining us from, and kind of maybe a little bit of your journey up until this point.
Well, I live in South Dakota right now. Grew up in Maine, but living in South Dakota. And a little bit about my journey is I got started out on my own last year. So transitioning from having a job to not having a job and starting out trying to do business online. And that evolved into deciding to go on this long walk. So it's been a very eventful past 18 to 20 months.
It sounds it. What made you go from, working for other people into entrepreneurship to begin with?
Part of it was I had gotten arrested twice in 2021 for DUIs. So I was going to lose my license, and I didn't want to burden that on having a job and having to be carted around everywhere. And also because I really did not want to have a job anymore. So I started learning online skills. And after I had some time in jail in May, that's when I started doing my business. I got out, started doing online business, and just trying to figure out how to provide for myself. And that's kind of how it all got started from that point.
Wow, I had no idea, because we didn't talk about that when we first chatted initially. And so, like, what do you think? Because there's people that go through that, right? They go through hard times. Maybe they make a mistake, maybe 2, maybe 12. They make a lot of mistakes, and then they continue down that path, as opposed to going, no, I need my life to look a little bit differently. What is it about you, or was there anything in particular that inspired you to kind of go a different route?
So the first time I got arrested, I was really ashamed of myself and what I did, and getting myself in that situation. I told myself I didn't want to be in that situation ever again. And then I was within the same year. And I was actually just after I got fired from my job for showing up with alcohol in my breath. So that second time when I was getting arrested, I told myself this will not happen again. And I had to take a really kind of a deeper look into why it happened in the first place, how I got myself into that situation, what led up to it, and really taking stock of my life, my decisions, and just taking ownership of my life, taking some responsibility like I had never taken before. And I hadn't read the book, but I heard the concept of extreme ownership. So I started to apply that, and just going through the different phases of my life and unpacking all of my immature decision making along the way.
Ah,
And that got started on a personal development journey or a self-work journey.
it sounds like you take like full responsibility for where your life ended up at that moment, which is another really great quality because we don't see that all the time either.
Well, I'm the one that did everything that I did. So nobody forced me to do any of the things that I did, and I got myself into those situations. So the only thing that I could do was to figure out how to get myself out and just continue on that path, because I'd got myself into basically what I felt like rock bottom on my own. So I had to figure out a way in the other direction. So actually, I'm pretty sure I Googled like how to put your life in order, and Jordan Peterson came up. So yeah, hey Google, how do I do this? And like I started getting into, nope, not you. I started getting into Jordan Peterson videos and learning about, getting my life in order and stuff like that. So he was a strong inspiration on that front. And also getting back into church and faith and so on and so forth. Like God, those are the two pivotal things that really helped me to turn my life around.
Yeah, that's amazing. Talk to me a little bit about your support system, Travis. Like, have you been surrounded with people who have also been able to like be that example of picking things up and moving forward? Or was this something you really had to delve into on your own?
Well, I'm sure that there were people I could have talked to, but part of me doing that was I felt too ashamed to go ask for help. And I figured if I was going to go talk to somebody, I should probably have a few things in order first to show like, hey, I've got some progress. Like I'm actually serious about this. But then I just kind of got sucked into doing everything on my own because I felt like I got myself into this mess. I need to get myself out of it. So that probably wasn't the best approach, but it was a really good learning experience anyway, because it led me to meeting these different people and my friend group and kind of reconnecting with my family as well. But it led into developing a strong support network.
I love that. I love that. And, I can really relate to that as well, because I tend to be don't rely on other people. Just you got yourself into this mess. Just you deal with it. But then I feel like we almost get attached to the fact that we're doing everything ourselves and we become a little bit type A. We were talking about before the show, like I'm reworking my website. I do it myself because because I'm a little bit of a control freak now, but that's because I have done it myself for so long that I'm like, I have that attachment to, well, I like the control aspect of knowing that I'm control of the outcome. Like I know what I put into it. So what I put into it is what I'm going to get out of it.
Especially when you start getting control of something, finally having some control over it.
Right.
It's very difficult to let that control go to somewhere else.
Right.
Even if it is more beneficial in the long run.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Do you feel like that element of wanting to do things yourself is part of what made you want to be an entrepreneur as well, because you do have kind of more of that control aspect there as well?
Kind of. I wanted to, from when I was a kid, like in middle school, high school, whatever, I had thought about having my own business. I thought that would be amazing because I wouldn't have a boss anymore. And I did not enjoy having a boss and not wanting to answer to an authority figure or whatever. And for some reason that led me into joining the military, which that's just kind of a paradoxical situation in and of itself. But the part of it was wanting to control what I was doing and who I was working with and so on and so forth. And the other part of it was, I don't think I have another choice. So that was kind of a mix of, I'm not sure if I have another choice and I want to have more control over my life. So let's just go entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I probably went into it with the wrong mindset anyway, but that's how you learn, right?
It sounds like you continually have this pattern where you go into things with a very different idea.
Oh yeah.
Which I can relate to that as well. I have this whole vision of what things are going to look like, and then I get into it and I'm like, this is not
something that just doesn't belong here.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So when you made the decision, hey, I'm gonna work for myself, did you already know what you were gonna do? I know you mentioned like picking up new skill sets and stuff. So what you got into, tell us what you got into, and if it was all learned or if you feel like you brought some skills into it already.
So some of it I had developed the skills in military
Mhm.
because of doing administrative work and organizational stuff and having the certain levels of leadership roles. But a lot of it was learning how to do online stuff. And because I pretty much lived under a rock my entire life and I didn't know anything about this new space I was getting in. It was like coming into a whole new world.
Mm.
But shortly after my second arrest, it was like the beginning of 2022, I just basically Googled like how to do online business or how to support online businesses with skills. Like I just Googled everything. Like it's not that hard. Just Google. If you have a question, just Google it and just do certain research steps and you'll find the answers usually. So I went into looking what I could do with the skills that I developed.
Mhm.
And then I found remote systems integration and reading through the description and learning more about that. I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to do this forever. And so I started learning more of those skills because I was like, these are something that this is a skill set that every business is going to need. I totally drank the Kool-Aid and did that for a few months. And after a few months of learning about that, going through a master class and working on some practice stuff, I found ClickFunnels and funnel building. And so I started learning about that. I watched a webinar, got some books, started doing some classes, so on and so forth. So I was like, this is amazing. I want to do this forever. So again, yeah, it just really developing the skills and thinking that it's just going to be the rest of my life doing that because what do I know? So then after I got out of jail, I felt called to start the business and try to use those skills to help business owners. Only problem is I didn't know how to talk to business owners and I didn't know business language. So immediately when I went to around town to ask business owners, hey, do you need help with your systems and funnels? And they're like, what are those? I'm like, I don't know. So I had like half a dozen encounters and just felt completely ashamed because I didn't know what I was doing or what I was, how to talk about it. So I just got into online networking. That way I didn't have to face people like in person, face to face.
Right. Yeah. First of all, Miss Brittany, if you are out there, I think that you and I can relate to this. This sounds good. I'm going to do this forever. I'm laughing. It's so hard inside because this literally has been, I get the best ideas and get so excited about all the things and I'm going to do it forever. And then I get another idea and I'm going to do that forever.
All the
Breakthrough Show Network.
Idea.
Right. The Breakthrough Show Network is by far the longest thing that I've ever done in my life, I think. But also I have to commend you because, you know, I have been since I started really in the entrepreneur world about 2015 or so. I really have come into contact with so many entrepreneurs that will tell you, even if they don't tell you, they act like they know all the things. And you are very honest about like, look, I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to do insert whatever here. And I had to learn that. And I think that I want to commend you on that because there's a lack of honesty in the entrepreneur space sometimes that really gets under my skin, Travis. It could be a whole episode or 12.
Yeah, that led into elevator pitches and it's cringeworthy.
Fun times.
Yeah,
fun times. So you're doing funnels and everything else, and you're like, at what point, I guess, are you at now, and kind of what happened in between there?
so from May until December, I was like dead set on trying to do remote systems integration, funnel building, helping out with operational consulting, so on and so forth, and trying to figure out how to talk to business owners to relate in their language to help them realize that they needed what I was trying to offer them. And that did not work. But that was also when I got introduced to the longest walkable road. That was in August. And that was kind of like a spark of, ooh, that would be fun. But I was focused on the business. I was like, let me get the business going first, and then I'll think about trying that out. And it got to the point where I was really successful at technobabble and talking about all the things that all the features and benefits that what I could do to offer to business owners without really conveying how it could benefit them and what it would mean for their business. And I got one client like the entire year. Yeah, what to do. But that was actually kind of a setup from a friend anyway. So I don't really count it, but it was still a great thing that it worked once. So it helped me to realize that I do have certain skills, certain specialties, certain gifts and talents, and so on and so forth. And there are some things that I cannot just go at and wing it. It takes actual practice and training, and I just was not in that space yet. So that was a really good learning experience.
I imagine so. Brittany did say, I can attest it does in fact get under her skin.
We've talked it's not relationship based. Like, here, I'm trying to serve you. Here's what I do. And it's not talking about who I am.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've come to these realizations, and now I know we're going to get into in a few minutes here talking about the longest walkable road and what you're going to be up to with that. But where are you at business wise at this point?
I stopped working on trying to do the business. I kind of just discarded it. It was how I describe it, it was a very successful first attempt at failing a business.
A very successful first attempt at failing a business.
Yes.
You know who would appreciate that? We had a gentleman, we've actually had him on the show a few different times throughout the few different shows. Miha Matlievsky from overseas. He is a fail coach. And I know that he would absolutely appreciate what you just said, because look, if I was to ask you to give me a list of like lessons you learned through the entrepreneur experience, would it be a short one or a long one?
It would be never ending, because I'm always learning new things and realizing more things and unpacking things that I didn't realize and so on and so forth. It would be like a constantly growing scroll of things that I've learned.
How long did it take you to get to be okay with saying that I failed this or it didn't work out?
Earlier this year, probably right around my birthday. So probably around May. It's like 5 months after I was not even working anymore.
Yeah, because I tend to be, I will hang on to something until there is no life left in it.
Yeah.
No life left at all, because I'm such a naive, hopeful person, and I don't always think that's a bad thing, but like I will hang on to it until it's passed away.
I think for me it was nihilistic optimism. So but it gave me a lot of good insights for after the walk when I'm doing business again. You know, if the good old adage, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So doing a lot more planning now.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense as well. I think I'm a big planner now, and I would venture to bet that it has been my lack of planning in the past that has put me in this place where I'm such a huge planner now, for sure. I want to get into what you're working on now, Travis, which is the Connection Odyssey, and you're getting ready to walk what is called the world's longest walkable road. And we're going to take a quick break, but before we go, I want you to tell everybody, what exactly is this?
So it's the longest series of connected roads, paths, bridges, and so on and so forth in the world. This dude on Reddit found it back in 2019, and he posted a picture of it like on Google Maps and started to describe it a little bit. And that's where it originally came from. Basically, it's this road that goes from Cape Town, South Africa, all the way up to Magadan, Russia. It's about 14,000 miles long, and it crosses 16 countries. And yeah, so it's the longest continuous stretch of roads in the world.
You know, that's a long way, right?
Yep. About 27 months worth.
We're going to talk more about this. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to My Way, conversations with entrepreneurs doing business outside the box. We're joined this evening by Travis Robbins, who is getting ready to walk what is said to be the world's longest walkable road. There are so many things that scare me about this, and so many questions that I have. Was it when you learned about this, which you explained before break what exactly it is, was it an immediate, I have to do this, or how did you get from learning about it to this might be something I want to do?
So the best way I can describe it is to kind of relate it to a couple movies that I really enjoy. Have you ever seen The Secret Life of Walter Mitty?
Yes, but it's been a long time.
So
like I couldn't quote it.
There's this scene in Walter Mitty where like they can't find the still frame that's supposed to go on the last cover of Life magazine, and he's down in his office with his buddy, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And he's looking up at his corkboard, and there's this picture of the photographer out in somewhere, and he's looking at it, and the picture shows it like beckoning to him. And when I was reading through the article that Global Rescue did on debunking the world's longest walkable road, that's what it felt like to me when I was reading through it. It was like, oh yeah, that'd be really fun. And I continued reading. I was like, that would be such an adventure. But I put it off for a couple months because I was focusing on the business and trying to just do what I thought I was supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to keep it on the back burner, but going through the process of personal development and self-work and continuing my walk in faith and whatnot, it was a bunch of pieces were coming together and kind of forming a picture like a puzzle. And so the more the puzzle started to form and the picture started to be more visible, it was like the walk was just more pronounced. So with have you seen Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Okay, so in the Fellowship, Gandalf, after Bilbo's birthday party, and Gandalf is basically giving Frodo the ring to keep it secret, keep it safe, goes off to learn about it, comes back, and they discover that, oh, this is the one ring, and it needs to get destroyed. And Frodo's like, well, it can't stay here. And Gandalf was like, I know, it can't. So then, looking down at the ring, he closes his hand and he says, what must I do? And that was kind of the point where I was like, everything is kind of coming together, and this makes so much more sense than anything I've ever done ever before. So how is this going to be possible? When I started asking those questions, all the so many more pieces started coming in and forming and really providing me full picture of how it's going to be working. And for me, it was not, I'm going to start here and I'm going to go over here and then here and then here and then here. It was, I'm already at the end of Russia. I'm already in Magadan and it's done. So let's reverse engineer it and catch up, basically. So that's when I started going into the process of putting things together and really just figuring out how's this going to be possible, because it's not going to be possible with just me doing it. I'm going to need at least a couple other people. I need some sponsorships and start looking into those. And, I'm going to need some food and water. So really it was, once I started asking those kinds of questions, all the pieces were coming together, and this is kind of like in The Mandalorian. This is the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So, there was not one Forrest Gump reference in there, Travis. And
he jogged, he ran, Forrest, run. I'm walking. I've gotten that reference several times.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was gonna ask, because anybody said that, and I recall I said that back when we first met.
I think about a dozen people so far.
HG said yes, a Lord of the Ring reference.
It's the greatest cinematic production of all time.
I agree, and I watch. I binge watch the whole series often, and my kids are like, "Really, Mom, again?" But
there's a whole lot of psychological significance for real life application in each of the movies.
Right. And my other series that I rewatch 8 million times is the Harry Potter series, for the same reason. There are those moments that you're just like, oh my God, I didn't catch that the first time. That could change my life, right?
Yeah.
Right there. I love that. I want to go back to a word that you used back in the beginning of sharing with us about this journey you're on. And that's the word suppose. When you say you're supposed to do something. And I think so many of us have been in that place, and that's partly, that supposed to phrase is partly why I started this show, because there's, in addition to the overwhelming amount of honesty in the world of entrepreneurs, there is also this space of this is what you're supposed to be doing or what you should be doing, and many of us get caught up in that. I don't think, though, that many entrepreneurs go from, well, I'm not going to do what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm going to go walk 14,000 miles.
I mean, only like half a dozen people in the world have ever considered it or done it. So it makes sense.
So nobody's made it the full length.
Nobody's done this walk, but other people have walked over 10,000 miles, whether it's through hiking, like consistently. Like there was this dude, George something. I don't remember his last name right now. It'll come to me later. He walked, he has the world record for the longest walk. It's like 19,000 miles or something like that. And there's a few other people who have done these really long walks. But they were they were in sections, but very, very few people have done really long walks like that. I know the Pacific Crest Trail is like 2,300 miles or 2,400 miles, something like that, which that's common. The same with the Appalachian Trail. But this one, it's, the road's never been walked before, and not many people want to walk for 2+ years straight through.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing, I think, for me, and partly this unknown aspect, I think, is what's scaring me. So it's one thing for me to go, okay, this is something that sounds really intriguing to me and really interesting, but then to know that no one's done it before me, does that add nerves or excitement?
It's just math. Got to do the math. Do the planning. I mean, if you do the math, it makes sense and it's completely plausible and practical. It's kind of like with David Goggins when he was going up for the world record for amount of pull-ups in 24 hours. Everybody else was like, "Oh, it can't be done," or "It's not possible," or "Your arms are too long," or "You're too heavy," or so on and so forth. But he did the math, and it was like a pull-up every 5 minutes, or a few pull-ups every 5 minutes, or something like that, or 5 pull-ups every minute. I don't remember the exact story, but you just do the math and break it into really small pieces, and it's completely plausible. You just got to do each piece in order. First things first, but not necessarily in that order.
See, and you talked about before when we talked about your entrepreneurial journey, like there were so many things that you didn't know, but learning to take things one little piece at a time, I feel like is such an important entrepreneurial skill, to have, because we can get so overwhelmed so quickly. Or is that taking one little thing at a time? Is that like the biggest thing keeping you grounded right now throughout this planning process, or is it something else?
I mean, yeah, that's a big part of it. I mean, it can easily get overwhelming if you try to take on too many things at once. I've done that so many times. I have a lot of experience with overwhelm in that sense. But there's also a book, The Power of One More by Ed Milet, which I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list. But basically it talks about just doing one more, go one more step, do one more rep, wake up early one more day, don't drink one more day. Like, it's just one at a time. That's all we actually really have is now, today. Tomorrow never comes, and yesterday is just a memory. So if you just focus on what I have to do right now in this moment and just keep focused directly forward, it's like horses in a race with blinders on. They have to have the blinders or else they're going to get confused and they're not going to perform. So if you just focus on what's directly right in front of you and do one thing in step at a time, it makes it it makes the process a lot more simple. Not necessarily easy, but much more simple.
Right. I didn't think I was going to get that emotional on today's show. I'm known for crying at least once a month on an episode, but I didn't think it was going to be this one. But that, it's a lesson for life, and something that I think we don't think about very often is just that forward motion, that one step at a time. And so many of us as humans live in this constant, overwhelmed, stress-filled state. And if we just put the blinders on, like you said, and just take that one little step at a time, I mean, how's
that song go? Just one step at a time. There's no need to rush.
Yeah, I think that's the words.
We all get 24 hours a day, so it's not like I'm mismanaging my time or I don't have enough time or anything like that. It's not time management. It's priority organization.
Right. I wish that you guys are going to be so mad at me. I left my bell over there again. We just moved into this house about a month ago, and my space is not my own yet. Like, I'm still in that sort of like weird space, and I have a bell that is necessary for moments like this, because I completely agree with you. When I was teaching time management, so many people start off saying to me, I don't have time. And it's the biggest lie I think we tell ourselves, because we're all given the exact amount of time in the day, at least starting out. I mean, I don't know what happens halfway through, but we're all given the same amount of time essentially. And we just prioritize not in the way that we should sometimes. If we have like a goal in mind, so many of us are squirreled.
Well, I mean, time in itself is more of a construct as well, because it doesn't actually exist. Because if you think about it, you're not going between tomorrow and now and yesterday and now and whatnot. It's all like in your head. And time is really just, what is it? A metric to track the duration between cycles. So it helps to keep us sane. Kind of like with running a marathon, you have mile markers. It's just to keep you sane. We have metrics to keep us sane. And that's what time is.
Keep us sane, but yet here we are freaking out about time management so often, right?
Part of that sanity issue is the social construct. You need the social feedback to maintain your sanity as well, but that's a whole nother topic.
That it is a whole other topic. We're gonna have Travis back on the show 800 more times to talk about all these little rabbit holes we didn't go down this evening. I mentioned before we came on air that I had found this article that was done by globalrescue.com that was quote unquote debunking the longest walkable road in the world. And I mentioned it to Travis and asked if he had ever heard of this article. And he said that was the article that made you excited about the trip. This is the most doom and gloom article I think I have ever read about an adventure, and it scared the daylights out of me. So, what I mean, have you kind of always been this adventurous?
Yeah. I'm an adrenaline junkie. So
Okay.
I thrive on the edge of near-death experiences. Not literally, but somewhat literally. It's like I don't have a death wish, but I enjoy pushing my own boundaries of what I think is my potential.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't. Thought maybe I could pull it. I can relate to it, but I can't. But can I mention a couple of these things that the article mentions?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To the people. Okay. So one of the things that it talks about in this article by globalrescue.com is that it says that there are so many risks along this route. And they said, for example, Zimbabwe is home to the black mamba. It says Uganda has the highest number of recorded cases of malaria in the world. South Sudan is one of the most dangerous countries in the world. There's countries that are in the middle of civil wars you're going to be walking through. So we also talked about before the show that we're both overthinkers. And maybe we'll call it detailed oriented as well, but we're both a little bit of overthinkers. So do you have a plan for if any of these things happen, or are you just going to roll with it as it comes?
Just roll with it. That's really basic answer, but so something I mentioned earlier, it's in my mind and how I feel about the walk, how I see it, how I envision it, how it resonates with me, is I'm already done and I'm just catching up to it. So I'm not worried about what's going to happen along the way because I know I'll end up in Magadan, and for me, it's finished and I'm just catching up to it. So what happens along the way is more just going to be for a learning experience to discover more about myself, to learn more about these cultures, to connect with other human beings around the world who experience life in different ways. And that's really the core concept of the walk, is unlocking what's within and sharing stories, developing community, and going on an adventure.
Yeah. I will give you that. I will say that it does sound like an incredible adventure. I love animals. I would really love to see some of the different animals in different countries. I'm also, maybe even to a fault sometimes, really fascinated by humans in general, and just how they think and why they do the things that they do, and not really for any reason other than I'm genuinely interested. And so I think something like this would really fascinate me. And going back to the reference that we didn't really talk about, which is Forrest Gump, that's what always fascinated me about that scene in the movie, was how many people he met along the way. Is this a part of something that excites you about the trip as well?
Absolutely. That's what I'm looking forward to the most, is the different people I'm going to meet along the way. I've had the privilege and opportunity to travel to 8 countries so far, and ironically only 1 in the military. But I got to travel in high school on a people-to-people student ambassador trip around the UK and Ireland, and I got to learn about the different cultures, the history, the different things that people do normally in different cultures, and the different foods and the languages and so on and so forth, and kind of bonding with the people that I was traveling with. And then right before I went to boot camp for the Marines, I went to visit a buddy of mine from high school. He was a foreign exchange student, and I was going to Rome, and I had a layover in Turkey. And on the transit from the plane to the airport, I met this dude who just got out of the Navy, and I was going into the Marines. And so I was like, well, we're on a layover, let's hang out. So we hanged out, and we're just hanging out in the town of Istanbul. And then after that, I went to Rome and got to meet up with my friend and hang out with his friends, learn more about Rome, their culture, their history, their food, and learn
a moment of silence for Italian
Yes.
food, real Italian food.
So good. Cannolis.
I make cannolis every Christmas, Travis. My family's from Sicily, so see,
so
you're coming
That's
to
like
visit.
one of the most visceral things I remember. And then I was stationed in South Korea for 1 year, and I got to learn more about their culture, their history, their food. Korean barbecue is spectacular. And just travel around and see the sights and see what people have built and see what, well, nature has provided. And traveling for me is in my DNA. My name even means the traveler. So it's just who I am, part of who I am.
Yeah, I love that. I would say, you know, I think saying it's who you are is valid. I don't even think you have to. I mean, we know that we are multifaceted human beings, and I think that saying it's who you are is just such a beautiful testament. And the fact that your name, I didn't even think about that. That your
I didn't
name,
either. I had to look it up.
That's incredible. That's incredible that fit. And Brittany's like, now I'm hungry. Thank you so much for that. I want to get to a couple of questions that have come in. A little bit about specifics. First, I want to ask you. Rhonda asked, why are you doing this? I know, like, one more reference, and I promise we're done. Forrest Gump said, "I just ran." Are you just walking, or why are we doing this?
Yes and no. It took a while to kind of come up with a name, the Connection Odyssey, but that's kind of have a really deliberate meaning. One is to develop connections, authentic human connections, and to really have that relationship, to quickly establish the relationship and bond and rapport and whatnot, and to see how we can relate to one another, see how similar we are and how we can resonate. And the Odyssey it's an expedition, it's an adventure. It's not just going out to do something for fun, but it does have a purpose. So part of that purpose, like I said earlier, is to unlock what's within, because for me, most of my life, I didn't develop the skills of learning how to talk to people, how to interact in a social construct, and really just, it took a while to come out of my shell and just be a human being. And so it's about connecting people to people, no pun intended for people to people, but we need to get back to connecting with people on a way that is unifying. And how are we similar? How can we relate? What can we share with each other from our stories, from our experiences, from our life that is in resonance, and we can learn from each other so that we can move forward in a more collaborative fashion, rather than saying how I'm different in this way and we're different in that way. Is how are we the same? Because that's much more interesting and intriguing for me than how there's so many differences. There's infinite differences, right. But what brings us together is what unites us. United we stand, divided we fall. Obviously it's a bit different in context, but I prefer talking about how we're unified first, and then learning more about the specifics of the individual human. And I think that is an important thing to do, but also pass along, but also teach. It kind of is a skill that you can learn. It's not just something that is this random dude is doing because he thinks it's his purpose. No, this is my purpose. This is my mission, to help others reconnect with what unifies us.
I love that. I love that so much. And now you guys know why I was so passionate about having Travis on the show this evening, because it is the same mission that brought me to doing the Breakthroughs Around the World series, which was my goal was to have 40 guests from 40 different countries, and to acknowledge our similarities, honor our differences, but most of all, celebrate our connection. And because I think we do live in a world that we're so quick to point out those differences and what every country does wrong and what everybody does wrong. And you know what's really interesting about that series, Travis, is that when we get to questions about the country, and then we really get down to the heart of things, right? We talk about the food. We talk about the food every damn episode. We talk about the food, talk about the clothes, the culture, the different things that go on. But when it comes down to it, I say, okay, what's like the one thing you want people to know? And every single guest, I believe so far, says the people are amazing. The people are amazing. Mm-hmm. And if that's something that we could just keep in our minds as we're getting ready to be judgy about every other country and everything that they do, that there are amazing people everywhere. I think we would be a little bit better off, I feel like. And so I love that our missions have been similar, though I'm virtually traveling. There will not be any.
That's fun as well, especially like doing VR stuff. That's fascinating.
I don't think we're gonna do that either.
Probably not.
But okay, so Jeannie had a very technical question here. What shoes do you buy for this?
Good ones. I'm working that out. It's going to be a sponsorship, hopefully, but
yeah,
good, durable, lightweight, waterproof. That's the ideal shoe.
Yeah, I would.
Well, honestly, Vessi footwear. That's my first pick.
Oh, okay.
They made the first waterproof shoes, and they can survive any kind of terrain. And I'm going to be going through every kind of terrain.
Yeah.
And actually, the elevation changes are going to be about 129 miles worth of going up and down. So I want some really good shoes and many pairs.
Would you be willing to try like different brands of shoes and then like say, okay, this is the one that worked the best?
As long as we align and resonate. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. All right. And then, so a couple of the questions that have come in are more like, we want you to kind of think forward to when you're going to do a little bit more than one step ahead. So think forward to when you're actually doing the walk. Brunella, which, speaking of Italy, she's a friend of the Breakthrough Show Network who is from Italy. What do you think you'll think about as you're walking that long distance? Because it is a long time.
Well, more in depth of the things that I normally think about. Just asking myself and having conversation about the questions of life. Like, I reacted this way. Why did I do that? What led me to this kind of situation? And how can I learn more about myself so that I can show up better in the future? So it's a lot of self-work on my part. That also might be because I've done a whole lot of terrible things in my life, and I have a lot of self-work to continually do. But thinking about the countries I'm going through, how can I be the most respectful guest that I can be, so that I can build rapport and like just develop good relationships right off the bat? And how can I learn more about their culture? How can I understand what they've gone through? And how can I eat some of their food? So I just think about a lot of things a lot of times, and also developing more concepts in my mind for different books I'm going to write in the future. It's really just developing my own neural network of like a library, and thinking through those as many times. It's kind of like with Sherlock Holmes developing that mind palace.
Yeah.
I will never run out of things to think about, because
I'm sure.
if I ever think that I do, I'll just cycle back through to refresh my memory on the things that I've thought about in the past, and just continue to embed those kinds of things in my mind. And if I need to discard something, then I'll discard it. If I need to think of something new, then I'll go down that rabbit hole or wormhole, whatever it is. So there's always something to think about.
Yeah. Other than giving yourself the freedom to roll with things as it comes, and those challenges, is there anything you are doing to prepare yourself for like the toughest, roughest, hardest times or areas, as far as to motivate yourself to keep going? What do you think is going to give you that motivation and strength when it is a tough day or a tough moment?
So I'll kind of answer that in two different parts. One, it is mainly a mental, it mainly is mental fortitude. And that's not meant to sound like arrogant or whatever. It's a mind game. That's what we all deal with. It's 90% mental, 10% what we do. That's life. But on the other side of that, the motivational aspect is more of a physical term. And yes, that's what's going to keep me going and keep me driven and so on and so forth. But motivation ebbs and flows. And so that I'm not solely going to rely on what's keeping me motivated, because I'm inspired with this mission. I'm inspired with this assignment, and it's part of what I'm here for. So that's also what's bringing me along, is to help with the planning, help with the walking in country, going all over the place. Yes, I'll be motivated because of the things I'll be doing and the people I'll be meeting, and like also serving the local communities with the local NGOs and whatnot. But it's more of a internal inspiration flame kind of thing. That's also a very physical term, but I have much more inspiration than I'm going to need motivation for.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming, because even though, like, for example, I'm super passionate about the shows that I do, and especially my morning show. I love my morning show, but there are mornings that I wake up and I'm like, I don't want a morning today. But the fact that this is my passion, this is what I want to do, is the fuel that I need for me to get up in those moments where that motivation might waver a little bit, where I'm like, I just don't want to get out of bed because I'm human.
To add a little bit on that, actually, because I think that kind of that might have come off a little bit arrogant. I'm not also just relying on myself to get through it.
Yeah.
I'm also working on every step that I take is a step closer in my faith and closer with God, and maintaining that communication to help me keep moving forward when I don't feel like going, or if I don't feel like I can move forward. It's the spirit has a lot more power than the body normally permits it to realize. That might be a little bit confusing. So think about, you hear these amazing stories of people that have like these adrenaline rushes, or they're able to do these extraordinary things, and then afterwards they collapse, or you don't know how they can physically do these things, or you don't know how they survived, like somebody falling off a tower or something like that. It's not just up to the body to keep going, because there's we have 5 modalities. The physical aspect is one modality. We have the emotional aspect, the spiritual aspect, and then the left brain and the right brain, which I've learned all this from a wonderful friend and mentor. And so keeping in alignment with those modalities is part of what helps anybody to keep going forward. Because if anything gets out of alignment, that's going to cause pull in a certain direction away from the path, away out of the focus and moving forward. So the more I can stay aligned in my assignment, my mission, my purpose, the easier it's going to be to stay on track and keep moving forward, regardless if I feel like it or not. So I hope that was a decent explanation.
No, that's a beautiful explanation of kind of just the process that you're going through mentally, because I agree that I feel like it is, even coming from me, someone who has had physical challenges a lot of my life. I do feel like it's a mental game. And I say that often about my own challenges and my own healing journey that I've been on throughout my life and my time on this earth, is that if I hadn't done the personal development and worked on myself, like, and my thought process and my faith and my spirituality and all of these different things, I would be in a far darker place physically than even on my worst days that I experience now. So I can completely relate to the things that you're sharing. Angela had a little bit of a specific question as well. And it sort of goes into my question. And I want you guys to know that we plan on having Travis back on a little bit closer to the walk. We'll get some more details as well of maybe some of the specifics that are going on. But what are you doing anything to prepare yourself physically? And how long is the furthest distance you've walked so far?
Well, I do walk. I walk every day, most days, pretty much every day. Yeah, every day. Normally about 4.5, 5 miles. That's just kind of just to keep the steps in until I can go into other training, like go on a trail and start walking extended distances. But I don't know. I wake up in the morning, I do like a 15-minute workout on one day, and then I stretch on the next day, and I kind of alternate working out and stretching. But I continue the walks, and then with the planning process, I'm also getting into studying the route more, so that I can know where I'm going to be at pretty much every single day. It's kind of if anybody has seen Free Solo, the person who free soloed this mountain, I'm not thinking of the name right now. That's irrelevant. He basically was studying every nook and cranny and crevice of this mountain so that he would know exactly where to put his thumb or his finger or his foot, how to lean, how to position himself, where to adjust his weight, how to move up the mountain. So basically, it turned into a dance for him. That's how I observed it. And for me, it's pretty much going to be the same thing. It's going to be a dance. And the more that I can learn my footing, the easier it's going to be to just flow through it.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, and that also serves the overthinking part of ourselves really well, because I would have so many questions, but I think when when you map things out a little bit, because you never know what's going to happen. You can't control other people. You can't control the weather. You can't control, the laws and things that are going on in these different countries. But if you can give yourself a map and more than just printing it out on,
Yeah, it's a 107-page PDF.
Yeah, if you give yourself, an idea of what more specifics of what you can expect, I feel like it would lessen my nerves a little bit more. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, uncertainty is like the breeding ground for anxiety if you let it be.
Right. Absolutely. I put Travis's website down below. It is theconnectionodyssey.com. You can also click it when you go to the show notes as well. To finish out the show, Travis, how can we help? How can we follow along? What are some of your immediate needs right now? Obviously, we'll get into more stuff the next time you're on as well. But what do you need, or do you want us to know right now?
Well, probably just two things, really. I'm working on developing social media and really just starting with TikTok right now. So if anybody wants to follow me on TikTok, it is Connection Odyssey. So basically the same thing as the site without the. So it's just Connection Odyssey on TikTok. And also I'm writing a book about the story leading up to the walk. And it's basically a much more in-depth analysis on the question of why are you doing it? So it's really the story of the different seasons of life that I've been through, the different walks of life that I've been through. And it's called All Walks of Life. The journey of 1,000 miles started with steps in the wrong direction. And then it'll basically just lead up to the actual send off to the walk. So if anybody wants to check that out, go on the site. You find one of the buttons and go check it out. I wrote an overview. So if anybody wants to read about what the book's going to be about, you can read through the overview and then you can check it out further.
Love
and
that.
It will be published early next year. So I'm writing it currently, working with a ghostwriter, and we'll be publishing before I go on the walk. So like March or May or whatever.
I love that. And this is the TikTok, you guys go. I followed you. So,
well, thank you.
Everybody, I love the TikTok. I was on there to embarrass my children to start out, but I love it now for me, not for them. So make sure you guys go check out the connectionodyssey.com. Go follow Connection Odyssey on TikTok. I know Travis is also on LinkedIn as well, so definitely follow wherever you can. And I'm excited about what's happened. When is your projected start date?
June of next year.
Okay, so June. So oh my gosh, when we talked, there was still a year left. There's not anymore.
Nope. In my mind, I just keep reminding myself it's basically tomorrow.
I'm not going to be the one that you're going to want to come to calm you down. I'm going to be the one to be like, oh my God, do you have everything? Do you have the list? I will be the anxiety for you. So if you ever feel like I can't handle the anxiety, you could just pass it to me because I already have it.
Well, I do have one goal leading up to the send off of the walk.
Sure.
Because every time I've traveled, without fail, every single time I've traveled, I've forgotten one thing when I left. When I was leaving Korea, I forgot my passport in my bag when I had it shipped. Yeah, luckily when you're in the military and you're leaving Korea, that you just hand them your ID and your orders and they're like, okay, goodbye. So that was a bit terrifying, but yeah, my goal for this is not to forget anything that I'm wanting to bring. So I'll have like 4 checklists and probably triple check everything twice.
You're going to forget something, Travis. And but this is the thing. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be
okay. If I can only forget something non-essential, I'm totally fine with that.
That's what I mean. It's going to be something ridiculous. I'm picturing it right now. You're going to forget something, but you're going to laugh because it's going to be something completely ridiculous.
Yeah, just like Bilbo. Wait, we have to stop. I forgot my handkerchief.
The priorities, going
Yeah.
back to priorities.
Someone rips off a jacket. Here you go.
See
All
how
right,
we
let's go.
circled back around. Look at us, very talented over here. Travis, thank you so much for being here this evening. I hope you guys are inspired. We've had so many people watching this evening live. Typically we get a lot on the replay, but everybody was like, listen, I gotta see what this guy's has going on over here. And Patrick says, let us know if you see a chicken crossing.
I will take a video.
Will you? Okay. I love it. I love
might
it.
Just stage it. We'll see.
I can't wait for you to come back closer to your walk time, and we'll see the progress you've made in planning and everything else. I really appreciate you being here this evening, Travis.
I really
and we're
appreciate
wishing
having
you
me as a guest. It's absolutely an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for watching or listening wherever
Yes.
you are in the world today. We appreciate you. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to do things your way, even if that means walking 14,000 miles. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.